Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another video. This is not a vlog, it's a podcast episode, and in this podcast we have a special guest. Her name is Faryal. Faryal is special because she's not only just US immigration lawyer, she's also a Canadian immigration lawyer, which is kind of cool because she understands immigration system at both the country, and she can kind of talk about like what is the immigration in United States versus Canada, immigration, life in Canada. We also talk about if a student wants to come to Canada, what does the process look like for them. We talk about if the student is in United States want to move to Canada, what the process looks like for them, and if a professional who's in H-1B visa is not able to get a green card and now want to move to Canada. We also talk about the timestamps right here, so you can skip to any part of the video you want to. Faryal, if you're watching this, thank you so much for doing this. Faryal also have a YouTube channel and all the social media link in the description. Please go follow her. She puts a lot of content on immigration and news update and all of that. And last but not the least, thank you for all the love, support, comments, like every single thing means a lot to me. So please keep commenting and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Share with the people who might want to move to Canada or who might need this video. I will now let you enjoy the conversation. My first question is going to be like, how does immigration at Canada work?
So Canadian immigration works completely different to US immigration. So in Canada, the focus is on bringing skilled workers into the economy. And Canada is very immigrant friendly. So they want to bring in 1 million new immigrants for the next 3 years. And this is despite COVID-19. So even with COVID-19, the Minister of Immigration in Canada has said that once they are reopening, right? And that's going to be their focus, is to bring in new immigrants. So in Canada, unlike the US, there's both a federal system and also a provincial system. So Canada is made up of provinces and territories. And so each province is like they have a specific allocation to the number of immigrants they can bring in, which is primarily based on their labor market needs. So the difference here is that in the US, the states do not have power to bring in new immigrants. It's just the federal power. But in Canada, each province has their own programs. If you look at the overall system in Canada right now, there's about more than 80 programs that individuals can apply to get into Canada. So there's self-sponsorship. So that does not require an employer to sponsor you. And that's based on your skills. And that's called express entry. That's the easiest way to get in. So an individual who has the necessary skills, it would take them about 6 months for approval. So they're put into a pool of applicants, and all these individuals apply, put their application in, and they put their education, their work experience, everything about them. Right. And once they put it into the pool, then the government chooses based on scores. That's also a lot to go into.
Yes, but I was gonna say we can totally do like a whole detailed video. Yeah. There's comments on this video that hey, we want to know more about this. We can totally do something like this in detail about how they can get into did you say self-sponsored visa?
Exactly. You just apply on your own, basically. Of course, with an assistance of an immigration lawyer. Right. But you apply, and then you get chosen. And then once you get an invitation, then you can apply for permanent residency. So you see, there's no employer in there. It's just strictly based on your skills, your merit. Then there's the provincial programs, and provincial, they have both self-sponsorship and also a kind of employment base where you would go on a temporary, you need to have a job offer basically. And so they have a mix of those. And then within the provinces and within the federal government, they may come up with pilot programs. And these pilot programs address specific issues. So for example, caregivers. So a lot of caregivers come from, the Philippines, for example. They work as nannies and then they get their permanent residency. Rural areas, they don't have enough farm workers, enough butchers, enough transport drivers. So they set up these programs, and then they're eligible to apply for permanent residency or a work permit. So there's a lot of different areas. Then
Yeah.
there's family-based, so a lot of areas.
Yeah. So I want to dive into my specific audience, and I know that there's multiple ways for people to get into Canada and get into immigration for Canada. But I have I could summarize like three types of audience or three groups of audience from my community. One is who are right now in their home country and planning and thinking about going for study abroad and wanting to decide if they should go to USA, Canada, UK, whatever it is. So that's the one set of audience who's wanting to come to Canada. Second is who are in United States in as an F1 visa student who don't know what the future is because there's a lot of uncertainty, and probably planning to move to Canada, and what is the process looks like for them. And then the third setup is the one who are on H-1B visa and in United States and probably thinking that there's no way they're going to get PR or green card. So it's going to be long run for them. And it might be easier or better for them to move to other country or Canada. So we'll start with the first one and then go through all what is the process for each one of them to get into Canada.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so let's start with the students who are right now in their home country thinking about if they should go to USA versus Canada, and if they do decide to go to Canada, what's the process looks like for them to get a PR.
Yeah, so in the US, I have to differentiate just, one thing. So in the US, when you go on F1 visa, at the end, you get your optional practical training.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what area, if you're in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, based on that, you either get a 1 or 2 year work permit. So at the end of that, though, students are
1 or 3, I think.
1 or 3 years, yeah. So what happens is that at the end, they're struggling to find an employer, right? So it's going to be either H-1B, of course, or another visa that they have to transition into. But the problem with H-1B is, as there is a quota, it's, you have to file, you get your application in, and you don't know if you're going to be chosen to be in that. Now, with Canada, the great thing is that first of all, students apply to go to school. So first you have to apply to get into a designated learning institution. And once you do that, you go to school. I'm just going to summarize real quickly and then I'll go into detail.
Yeah.
So you go to school for, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever it may be. And then at the end, you get a postgraduate work permit, which is similar to what the OPT is, and it could range from 1 to 3 years. Now, the good thing in Canada is that once you've had the experience, once you have the Canadian degree, the program that I talked about before, the Express Entry, you are going to get so many points for Canadian education and Canadian work experience. And as well, most probably at the end of your OPT, your employer will likely sponsor you. So, that happens. But even if your employer does not sponsor you, with the Canadian education and with the Canadian work experience, you are pretty much at the top there. You'll get those points and you'll be able to attain permanent residency. So if somebody asks me where to go to school, which is better, I would definitely say, well, what's your intention? What's your goal? Is your goal to remain overseas, or is your goal to go back to your home country? And Canada has just as many top-notch schools, and their tuition is so much cheaper. So average tuition, 14,000 Canadian dollars, which is about 10,000 US.
Yeah.
So significantly.
Wow, that's that's significantly less. Yeah.
So
Got it.
Yeah, it's and also, I have to mention this. So Canada has 2 ways you can get a study permit. There's one way called the student direct stream, and then there's one way called the regular stream. So what's happening right now is that applications that are in queue are, if you have all your documents, you can be processed under student direct stream if you live in one of the countries that has that program. India does have that program, so their application could be approved in 20 days.
Wow.
Yes. And so, so that's a good thing. And then the regular stream, what they're doing right now, Canada is doing a lot to get the international students in despite of COVID-19. So they're having a two-step process right now where you can get an approval even though all your documents are not submitted, so medical exam, biometrics, for whatever reason. And you can start your program in your home country. You can do 50% of that program in your home country. Then when you come to Canada after the restriction, you finish your 50%, you are still eligible for that work permit, right? And you could still, obtain the points for express entry because your degree will still be from Canada, and you'll have that postgraduate work permit and get the experience.
Right. Yeah. I think for me, as specifically what I've been guiding my audience is like, it's very expensive streaming service if you are planning to take something online, because it's as simple as going to a $10 course and just taking a course online versus paying $10,000 and taking a course from a university. So my recommendation, because you're going to study abroad, there's not just the education, but there's a lot of other experiences like living alone, living independently, the interaction with professors and students and the campus life. It's so different, like significantly different from Indian education system. So my opinion is to not do online education and wait and then do it until like get the full exposure and experience at campus, regardless of what you choose, which country you choose. But that's what I've been recommending. But anyway, that's like a separate topic.
COVID-19 though, that's a whole different story, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that's awesome. I do want to ask you about the point base, but let me ask you for the students who are in United States, they are on F1 visa, maybe in their last semester, or there's 2 more semesters to go, or they are on their OPT and figuring out like, okay, we now should start thinking about as a backup option. They don't want to go back to India. What should they do at that point to get into Canada?
So, there's many ways that a student can consider going to Canada. If they have family support and they have money, they could do investor visa. That's, one way.
How much does that cost?
Well, every province has a different amount. It could be as little as 100,000, but there are other programs. There's another program, and with that, it's not really an immigration program, but basically what you're doing, it's called the owner operator. And so you are coming to Canada and you are owning a business, you're going to operate that business. You get a work permit first, then you apply for permanent residency. And that is subjective to, the officer who's reviewing your application based on the type of business that you're opening, whether it's a new business or whether you're purchasing a franchise or an existing business. So that's another way. So the investor / owner operator, they can also choose to do a master's in Canada, because with Canada, with regards to study permit, what the good thing is that you can work 20 hours a week, and it doesn't have to be on campus. It could be anywhere. It's like an open work permit. And your spouse, which they've made permanent now, they get an open work permit, so they can work 40 hours a week anywhere they want.
Oh wow,
right?
Nice.
Yeah. So that's they could do a master's or another program or even a certificate.
Yeah.
So that's the other Now, if they have experience already and they've worked, because in order to apply as a skilled worker, you have to at least have 1 year of work experience. So if they have worked 1 year on OPT, then they could definitely apply under express entry, and if they have the points, then they could get in that way.
Yeah, and if they don't have work experience, and I know that a couple of my friends have tried this option where they are in their first year of their master's program and they still have 2 more semesters left, and they've I think they still did I don't remember which one it is, but they still applied for it. They gave that IELTS exam,
Yes.
and their points were like whatever the points were, and they still applied for PR and they got the invitation. So I wasn't sure. Like, so that is another option. Is that like same express entry, or is that some other program? And you probably
No, that see with express entry again, you have to have the 1 year work experience, regardless of whether master's, PhD, etc. So that would probably be an employer has offered them a position, so they're coming, to Canada on a temporary work permit, and then eventually they'll apply for PR. Because, like I said, there are ways you can get in with a work permit, and you don't necessarily need to have a work experience. So, like for example, a pharmacist, there's a shortage of pharmacists, so they may choose to hire you because you have that background, or a doctor, so yeah.
Yeah. And so I think you've kind of answered the third group of audience who are right now on H-1B visa and don't know if they're going to get the PR or not. So they wanting to move to Canada, or immigrant in Canada. What are some of the options for them? Is this the same, the work permit? I mean, since they can do the self-entry plus even employer-based, because they have so much of work experience and education.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Same thing. And then with having worked in the US and having that experience, and of course, most of them are skilled workers and have the education, they would apply under the express entry. Express entry is the easiest way to get in, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the education, the language skills, the work experience, I would highly recommend going to the express entry because it is a faster way to get into Canada.
Yeah. Is there a limit, like how many, like you, how H-1B has 85,000, you can only get that many every year. Is there like a limit to express?
Yes, exactly. So how there's I talked about well, I don't know if it was this video, but the 1 million new immigrants coming into the United States. So that would be 341,000 every year. Now, express entry takes up the majority of that number. I don't have the exact statistic, but it doesn't really ever run out. So they don't have to worry about that.
Okay. So that's good. Okay. Now moving on to the a little more on the career end or a personal end, because this is great that immigration at Canada is easy, or at least a little bit easier than United States, and there are multiple ways they can immigrate into Canada. But what is job market look like for students who are coming? Is ultimately everybody wants to get a job after their education. Is there enough job market in tech sector, like at least technology sector?
Okay, technology is huge. It's one of the shortage labor market areas. So British Columbia has a specific tech program, their provincial nominee program. And Ontario, the largest province, they also have a tech program as well. So there's specific positions that they're looking for. So like software engineer, database analyst. So there's a specific list. I think it was about 10 different occupations. So IT is huge in Canada, and there, with COVID-19, with everything going online, Zoom, for example, everything going online. One of the companies, Shopify, who they're looking to expand their hiring. Microsoft hiring. There's just the country just doesn't have enough people, right? That's why they want to bring in 1 million. 1 million for a national. So to find a job in the IT sector, that is a very good sector to be in right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I just said IT because I know that majority of my audience is in IT, but what about some other industry like project management, business analyst, product manager? I don't know if you know all of those fields, but that's mainly what my audience revolves around. There are a lot of them in different industry as well, like industrial engineering, manufacturing, supply chain.
Engineering, of course, also very, very in demand as well. But one thing, Yudi, is when you're overseas, when you're deciding on whether you want to leave, there's one thing that you need to look at. You need to really think about, and that is, what is your goal? right? Is your goal to go to Canada, to live there, to get a Canadian passport, which is one of the highest regarded passports in the world? Or, you know, do you need to have a job to go there? Or do you need to find a job right away? So I tell a lot of my clients, yes, probably at the beginning, you will have to do survival jobs. But, you know, the average, the minimum wage average is about $14 an hour. And you could probably get an apartment for probably about $2,000. So if you and your spouse are both working, you could definitely, you know, that's very
Make a
attainable.
living out of it. Yeah.
And then after that, then once you're in country, then you can start looking for these in-demand jobs, and there's plenty of those jobs available.
Yeah.
In IT.
You hit the nail on the head. Like, I was gonna ask you in the next question is like, what's kind of a average pay for people who probably might not get into the IT sector first, but like the minimum salary or like some odd jobs if they have to do. And you said like $14, and what's the average cost of living? You already mentioned that it's roughly about $2,000. So you kind of had both the questions already answered it. What is life at Canada like? You've lived in both the countries. Like, what do you think the life is? I know for me, the major reason for not choosing Canada was the snow and winter. I didn't want it to get into a country where it snows like 8 months. So what's your take? Like, what is life at Canada?
So with me, I mean, I grew up there, so I didn't know any better as far as weather-wise. So for me, the snow is beautiful. I love the snow. I love the cold weather. But not everybody is the same, of course. But when you think about it, how much time are you actually spending outdoors, right? Yeah. And in the house, you have your heater, you have everything. So you're not really going out that much. Yes, you have to put on your big coat, your hat, your gloves, you know, your snow boots, but it's also very fun. All the activities in the wintertime, you know, you get in your skiing, your tobogganing, sledding. So it just depends. But in my opinion, you're not spending that much time outdoors unless you're a very outdoorsy person, but then you would like all the winter activities. So, you know, that's not so much of a big deal. And I don't know if you know this or if your audience knows this, but Canada is number one for, you know, the way of life, the standard of living and all that. So, it's just a great country, and that comes with having safety, being friendly, having diversity. Like, diversity is huge in Canada. So, you know, when an individual is also deciding whether they want to move to Canada, they also have to look at that. You know, it's not going to be much different than their home country because there's so much diversity in Canada. I mean, you talk about any type of food, any type of country, and you will have those restaurants in Canada. Right. And there's an appreciation for religions, for culture. It's very welcoming, very warm. And, you know, so that's, you know, that all contributes. Now, the biggest thing I would have to say is healthcare. We have an amazing healthcare in Canada. It's free. So you don't have to pay for anything. So unlike the US where you're paying co-pays, you have to meet your deductible, you have to meet your co-insurance. In Canada, that's all free. And in addition, if you're under 25, you get your prescriptions covered. And then mental health has become a new program that is also free. Maternity leave, of course, it's not your full salary, but it's over a year. Whereas yes, and then in the US, it's like, I don't even know what it is anymore, like very short. So that's great. People, so many moms get to spend so much time with their children, but if they're working moms and they want to go back to work, then the father can take the time instead. And that's all federally mandated, right? So it's not like your employer has to approve it. Right? It's by the government. So that's, you know, another great thing about Canada.
And I know off topic, off camera, you were mentioning that Indian population at Canada is like, is it like second highest over there?
The first highest. First highest. Yeah, they're the India is the #1 country immigrating into Canada, apart from China and Philippines, which is
Yeah.
also very big. But
Yeah.
yeah, India is huge for even students. That's the #1 international students as well that come to Canada. So you wouldn't be surprised if you go into a grocery store and people can speak to you in Hindi. So it's very diverse. And even like where I grew up, there were for Muslims, everything is halal. So there's no worries about that if there's any Muslim viewers.
Yeah.
Everything is
I
halal.
know. I definitely remember a lot of my Muslim friends. They can't eat at certain places if it's
Yeah.
not halal. So
Exactly. So that's no problem there. Halal is available in the grocery stores, right? In the grocery chains. So, and also Indian food. So that's a huge freezer section. They celebrate all the holidays. You have a temple, you have mosque, you have everything there. So it's definitely like a little India, I would say.
yeah.